Good evening, all of you. Good evening. May I start the session, ma'am? I think it's time we should start the session. I hope I have the permission from Patliputra Sahodaya. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, you can start now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So today we are going to discuss a very interesting and a very new topic, which all of us are actually striving for, and that is developing a learning culture in our school. Like, suppose you have a very good curriculum, you have got very good infrastructure, you have the apt number of students in your classes, in your school, but then the children are not doing well. Maybe academically, you say not doing well, or maybe co-scholastically, they are not performing well. When you go to the school, you see there's a lot of indisciplined behavior, people are loitering around here and there in the corridor, whatsoever. So you start thinking that what is missing? What is wrong? So actually, friends, what happens is that from day one of the school, we are not able to establish a proper learning culture. As soon as the child wears a school uniform or the teacher is ready for coming to school, that mental balance should be there, that mental thought process should be there, that I'm going somewhere which is very good, which is wonderful. I love to spend my day over there. I'm going there for a lot of learning. So if this mindset is there with the students and if this mindset is there with the teachers, then automatically, when they come to your school, there is only teaching and learning happening. Otherwise, what will happen is students will not be interested in learning, teachers will not be interested in teaching. So as a whole, despite of the fact that you have very good infra, you have very good students in the class, you have very good teachers available, still your school will not progress in the pace in which it should. So developing a learning culture, or rather I would modify it and say developing a self-learning culture, where the children learn automatically. Now, what is this? How is this going to happen? Is this a magic? The children will learn automatically. Yes. Friends, there are so many things that we learn, but nobody has ever taught us those things. Don't you think so? If you close your eyes for a minute and start thinking that what are the things you have learned without being taught directly? Like, for example, you remember, did somebody teach you that you have to keep the pillow under your head and sleep? Did somebody teach you that when you get up in the morning, then you go and freshen up yourself? Did somebody teach you how to fold your hands in front of God? Did somebody teach you how to touch the feet? Maybe somebody has taught you, of course, that you should touch the feet of your elders. But how? How to bend? How do we learn all these things? Then how did we learn all these things? We learned it by observation. We found those things happening around us and we learned it. How we learned? If you think about it, so many things. I've just given you a few examples. You will find n number of things that you've learned only by observing, only by seeing others do it. Or you have learned those things from the YouTube. You have learned those things from some friend. But nobody has taught you that directly. So you learn indirectly, and that is what is called a learning culture. So if your school has a learning culture, then everybody who is involved in the school will learn. I'll give you a very simple example. Like, in my school, I observed that when we have the national anthem, after the assembly is over, everybody, whoever, suppose it's the bus driver or the conductor or the cleaning helpers, everybody would just stand quiet. They will not move. Now what happened, one day after the assembly, I called them and I asked that why do people don't move when that song is played? I didn't say it's a national anthem. I said, when the song is played, why you people all stop doing your work and you stand? You know what they said? They told that, ma'am, everybody stands. Still, nobody moves. You also don't move. That is the reason we also don't. Some of them were able to say that it is our national anthem and we are supposed to stand. But many of them were such who actually did not know this. So teachers, this is a live example of a learning culture. You learn from your environment. Our environment is a best teacher. So make your school a teacher. Make your building a teacher. Make your behavior a teacher. Make your attitudes a teacher. It's not only the teacher who goes to the class and teaches. Everything in the school is a teacher. So when the child goes to the wash basin and finds that the child in front of me has closed the tap before leaving, the other child also does the same thing. But if the child finds that the child who was in front of me has opened the tap and gone, maybe the next child will also do the same thing. That is a learning culture. So today we are going to discuss a few tips and tricks how to develop this learning culture in our school. So please permit me to share my, Please permit me to share my PPT. I just hope it's visible to all of you. If you could please write a Y in the chat box, I would be very, very happy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, developing a learning culture. And I'm your resource person for the day, Mitali Mukherjee, Principal, Indrapuram Public School Girls. Okay. So, is a school's learning culture equal to implementation of tasks and activities in a school? This is a very important question. Please pause, my dear friends and colleagues, and just give it time. 1 second time before you answer this question. Is a school's learning culture, that means is learning culture equivalent to implementation of tasks and activities in a school? You implement the tasks and activities. Just say, for example, what is the meaning of implementation of tasks and activities? That children, tomorrow you have to complete your homework and come to school. This project should be completed today. Everybody is supposed to read a book in the library period. You are implementing, you're seeing that yes, somebody is there in the library and checking that children are reading. Somebody is there to check that the students are doing their homework every day. So you're implementing any task or any activity in your school. For example, reading a book in the library is an activity. Task means completing a homework maybe. Or maybe in the morning you have a system in your school that every morning the children jog for 2 minutes. So is learning culture and making sure that certain things are happening in your school, are they the same? What do you feel, dear friends? Is it yes or a no? Please think twice. Okay. I'm receiving the answers in the chat box as yes. But I'm sorry, I will differ a little from you. It is not always a yes. It is not always yes. Learning culture, I have just explained to you that learning culture means where children observe, where children see, where not only children, people, as I gave the example of my Group D staff members, where people are observing and understanding and assimilating things, and as a result of that, there are some observational changes in their behavior. I repeat myself. Learning culture, learning from a learning culture, developing a learning culture means where children observe, analyze, learn from whatever is happening around them in the school premises, in the school bus, maybe in the building, in the playground, in the classroom. They're observing, they're assimilating, they're analyzing, they're understanding. And then through their own behavior, they are reflecting those things. Like, for example, the Group D staff was standing still when the song was being played. That was a song for him. He didn't even understand that it's a national anthem. For him, it is a song, and when that song is being played, he's standing still. Why? Because he's observing that everybody is standing still. So he was also standing still. Maybe he did not even know the name. Ki, ma'am, I'm in attention position. Maybe he did not know this. But he was standing still. For him, that was important. So, when you make sure when you make sure that the tasks have been implemented. For example, you have told your class कि बेटा एक homework है, कल आपको करके आना है. Then what do? You check the homework. क्यों नहीं किया? तुम्हें डांट पड़ेगी तुमने नहीं किया. I'll give you a black star. I'll give you a remark in the diary. That is not learning culture. That you are implementing, maybe by applying a little force or maybe by applying a lot of force. Depends upon you or your school's culture. But if every child in a class is doing the homework because he finds or she finds that every other child is doing and coming, so I'm also supposed to do and come. Are you getting my point? So if there is somebody standing behind you and forcing you to do something, that is not the learning culture. That is implementation of rules, either by force or by not force or by a push or by a pull. I don't know how it is being done in your school. But if it is happening automatically, just by observation, just by analysis, children are adapting things, teachers are adapting things, staff members, parents are adapting things. Like, for example, a very good example just clicked me, I'm sharing with you, friends. Suppose you have a program and you've invited the parents. Now you will see in some schools, the parents are 5 minutes before the time and the program starts dot on time. Yes, if it is happening in your school, that's a learning culture. But suppose in your school you invite the parents at 4 o'clock and you start the program at 5:30 because you assume that parents will come, they will be seated by 5 o'clock or 5:15. And then the chief guest would come at 5:30, so you start at 5:30. So what happens is parents, maybe this has happened, the reverse has happened. Parents have observed कि भैया यहाँ तो program हमेशा लेट ही शुरू होता है, तो वो 4 बजे आप बुलाओगे तो वो 5 बजे आएंगे. लेकिन अगर पेरेंट्स देखेंगे एक प्रोग्राम में वो लेट हो जाएगा, प्रोग्राम शुरू हो जाएगा, तो क्या होगा? वो देखेंगे अरे नहीं, यहाँ तो प्रोग्राम टाइम पे शुरू हो जाता है, वो मेरे लिए नहीं वेट करते, तो अगली बार से पेरेंट 10 मिनट पहले आ जाएंगे. ये लर्निंग कल्चर डेवलप. Are you getting my point? So learning culture may not be always implementation of tasks. Learning culture sometimes means things are happening on their own. Your past record, your past work, your observation of the students have actually made things happen. I hope I've made learning culture clear. Okay. Now, I've already shared some examples of learning culture in your school. If somebody wants to share, you can please write in the chat box. I'll be very happy if I can read it out for you. That what is a learning culture of your school? One thing which you have not taught directly, but it has happened. It has happened over the time without reinforcing. You know, when there's no reinforcement, still things are happening. Suppose as a principal, I've told my teachers, dear teachers, please submit your lesson plans by the end of the day. Now, if it comes to me automatically, done, there's a learning culture. My teachers have understood that if my principal is asking for something today, it has to be done today. Now, suppose my teachers go home without caring enough. Then they come tomorrow in the morning and say, ma'am, I'm very sorry. I could not submit it yesterday. It was not done. Some come in the evening and say this. That means I have not been able to develop a learning culture in which my teachers would complete their work in time. I still need to do something about it. It is my failure. So similarly, friends, if children come to your school, especially, I'm so happy that during the end of the session, we are doing this. The new session is approached. We're going to welcome the new session very soon. So if from the new session, suppose new children come to your school and they observe certain things and learn without your telling, that means that has already been established as a learning culture of your school. Okay. So this is very crucial. What do you mean by learning culture? I've already explained to you. Learning culture are the implicit ways. What are implicit? What is the meaning of implicit? That you directly don't say. Even if it is unsaid, it is said. Even if it is unseen, it is seen. And even if it is unheard, it is heard. So without saying, without shouting and being heard, or without seeing, the children learn these things automatically. Like, for example, suppose new students come to your school from April and you find all of a sudden there's a lot of noise in the corridor. Arey, what happened? What happened? Children are making noise in the corridor. That means you have not been able to develop a learning culture in your school where the children move in the corridors quietly. So what happened? Old ones were already making noise. Now the new ones have joined in. So together they're making a lot of noise. So maybe in April you find it's very difficult to manage students in the corridor. But suppose the old children have already developed a culture that they walk quietly in the corridor in a proper line. Now, when the new ones join, they will follow the old ones. Of course, one or two exceptionals will always be there, my dear friends. But they will follow the culture. अरे यहाँ तो कोई कॉरिडोर में आवाज नहीं करता, तो इसका मतलब मुझे भी नहीं करना है. Quietly they will move. Getting my point? So, suppose, friends, learning culture can be established without saying, unsaid, without being heard, okay, or without making the children see something. They automatically will see. And that is the purpose of establishing, that is actually very important for establishing a proper teaching learning process. Okay. Now, this is what I just explained to you, that these are said beliefs or unsaid beliefs. They are said expectations or unsaid expectations. Now, when the principal announces in the assembly, for example, every child in the corridor has to move very, very quietly. That means it is not a learning culture of the school. Why the principal had to say this? That every child in the corridor has to move very, very quietly in a proper line. So it is not the learning culture. That means it is a said expectation. It is not an unsaid expectation. आप कभी भी मेरे स्कूल का राउंड लगाओ, आपको कॉरिडोर में शांति ही मिलेगी. मूवमेंट हो सकता है, लेकिन प्रॉपर लाइन में मूवमेंट होगी. दैट मीन्स, इसका मतलब है, यस, मैंने लर्निंग कल्चर एस्टैब्लिश किया. मुझे बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो होगा, जरूर होगा. अगर मैं अपने रूम में बैठी हूं और मुझे पता है कि मेरा टीचर टाइम पे क्लास में जा रहा है, इसका मतलब यस, वेरी करेक्टली यू सेड, विदाउट टेलिंग दे आर डूइंग इट. इसका मतलब मेरे स्कूल में टाइम पर टीचर का क्लास में जाना लर्निंग कल्चर में है. इट्स अ कल्चर ऑफ माय स्कूल. अगर मेरा टीचर टाइम पे क्लास में जा रहा है, तो माय चिल्ड्रन विल आल्सो लर्न. दे विल नॉट बी इनडिसिप्लिन बिहेवियर मे बी. ओके, सो आप समझ रहे हो ना व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ unsaid expectations. Now, let's come to said beliefs and unsaid beliefs. There is a said belief, जैसे मैंने अभी आपको बोला, there's a belief system. That this is happening. अगर मेरे बिना बोले भी वो हो रहा है, that means it's the culture of the school. अगर मेरे बोलने पर हो रहा है, that means it is yet not the culture. Maybe it is in the process of becoming a culture. You have to put in a little more reinforcement. तो बिना बोले, बिना देखे चीजों को होने दीजिए. That is known as learning culture. Is it okay? Anybody has any doubt so far? You understand what is learning culture? Thank you for these wonderful comments in the chat box, for your emojis. That is actually the motivation for the resource person. Thank you. So we move ahead. Why do we need a learning culture? Do you think it is important, friends? Do you think learning culture is important? Yes or no? Is learning culture important? Yes, yes. If there is no learning culture, then learning will not happen. Because everything you cannot say, you cannot announce. Like I'll tell you, in my home, there was something like, whenever my father used to return from office, we should not, we were not supposed to be present in the drawing room watching the television. At that time, we had only one television, and that was available in the living room only. That was not present in the bedroom. So we all used to enjoy the television shows, but then it was understood that अगर पापा आ रहे हैं, उसके पहले टीवी बंद हो जाना चाहिए. तो कोई बोलता नहीं था. शुरू में शायद मम्मा ने बोला होगा, लेकिन इसके बाद we used to look at the watch. अरे पापा का आने का टाइम हो गया, पापा का आने का टाइम, बंद करो, and go to the other rooms. Okay, so this was there. Maybe I would say that this was a learning culture of my house, or the culture of my house. Now, learning culture is important, friends, because it establishes beliefs, norms, values, expectations that the school has with respect to learning. Yes, I'll give you an example and try to explain you. For example, in your school, suppose you are giving homework to the child. Okay, in any subject, you're giving homework to the child. Now, what happens is the child goes home and finishes the homework, whether it is written or it's oral or project work, whatsoever it is. Then when the child comes back to school the next day, then that homework is checked. Whether it is oral, then maybe orally it is checked. If it is written, then written wise it is checked. If it's a project work, then the teacher checks the project work, takes the project work, discusses the project work, checks the project work. Suppose, I'm just saying suppose, I'm just giving you an example. Now, if this is a learning culture of your school, कि आज हमने जो homework दिया वो कल check होगा, then what happens? Suppose a parent comes to your school one day, fired, very angry, and says, "Ma'am, आपने जो होमवर्क दिया था पिछले 1 महीने से मेरे बच्चे का होमवर्क ही नहीं चेक हुआ, फिर आप ऐसा होमवर्क देते क्यों हो?" पेरेंट बहुत नाराज है. तो आप अगर अपने रूम में बैठकर कॉन्फिडेंटली कह सकते हैं एज अ प्रिंसिपल, आई एम सॉरी सर, बट ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि मेरे टीचर ने 1 महीने तक कोई होमवर्क नहीं चेक किया है. इसका मतलब आपके स्कूल में होमवर्क चेक करने का लर्निंग कल्चर है और आप कॉन्फिडेंटली पेरेंट को कह सकते हैं कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं हुआ होगा. और अगर आप क्रॉस चेक करेंगे तो फिर आप पाएंगे that there was some confusion, maybe the parent could not understand what is happening, but the homework was being checked. There is some confusion maybe. तो आपके मन में, पेरेंट्स के मन में, आपके सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स के मन में, मैनेजमेंट हो, पेरेंट्स हो, स्टूडेंट्स हो, टीचर्स हो, स्टाफ मेंबर्स हो, समाज हो, सोसाइटी हो, सबको पता है कि नहीं इस स्कूल में तो भैया होमवर्क देने पे अगले दिन चेक होता है. ये हुआ लर्निंग कल्चर. आप समझ रहे हो? इट एस्टैब्लिशेस अ बिलीफ, अ नॉर्म. अगर कोई आपके स्कूल में कहेगा कि यार उस स्कूल के बच्चे ना बहुत इनडिसिप्लिन्ड है, तो तुरंत एक दूसरा आदमी कहेगा, नो, I know that school, the children are very disciplined, because you've established that culture. You've established that system. You've established that expectation in the public that your school is very disciplined. Maybe whatever you have done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever things you have done for that. So, एक आपके स्कूल के बारे में एक बिलीफ, एक नॉर्म, एक वैल्यू, एक एक्सपेक्टेशन सेट होती है. किसकी नजरों में सेट होती है? टीचर्स की नजरों में, पेरेंट्स की नजरों में, समाज की नजरों में, मैनेजमेंट की नजरों में, बच्चों की नजरों में. यू सेट अ बिलीफ और अ नॉर्म. ये फायदा होता है नंबर 1 लर्निंग कल्चर से. नंबर 2, it helps teachers and students collaborate, engage meaningfully, innovate and learn. See, establishing a learning culture is not a very easy job. It's not only about homework and national anthem. It's much beyond that. I'm just giving you some very basic examples. So when you establish a learning culture, then what happens is you are always growing. And how will growth happen, my dear friends? Growth will only happen when you think, when you innovate, when you engage, when you connect, and when you do something meaningful. So please remember this, कि अगर आपके स्कूल का लर्निंग कल्चर है बढ़िया, 1, 2, 3, कहीं किसी भी चीज 3, 4, 5, 6 पॉइंट्स पे, इसका मतलब आपने बहुत इनोवेट किया है, आपने बहुत सोचा है, आपने बहुत थिंक किया है, आपने कनेक्ट की है चीजों को. लुक एट दिस फिगर. तब जाकर वो लर्निंग कल्चर डेवलप होकर सामने आया है. तो दिस इज द बेनिफिट ऑफ लर्निंग कल्चर. नाउ हाउ लर्निंग कल्चर बहुत अच्छी बात है, ये तो आप लोग समझ गए. Now the question arises कि ma'am, how do I set a good learning culture? I establish a good learning culture in my school. Now let's come to how. So how will you develop a learning culture? Number 1, the first method of developing a learning culture is make parents active partners in learning. If your school is afraid of parents, if your school feels कि यार पेरेंट तो सपोर्ट ही नहीं करते, पेरेंट तो कभी ये ही नहीं करते, पेरेंट तो कभी आते ही नहीं है, पेरेंट तो बियॉन्ड कंट्रोल है, पढ़ाते नहीं है, ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, so that means there is something wrong in the learning culture. Your parents, if they work hand in hand with you, support you, that means a good learning culture is being established, and that is going, that it's got radiation is going till the parents. Somebody is complaining there's no sound. Am I not audible? Touch with the parents is necessary. Very good. Yes, very good, very good. I'm audible. Okay, thank you. Now next, encourage teachers to deepen learning. You are trying to develop a learning culture. Can you develop learning culture without learning? Suppose the children find that the teachers are always, whenever they're free, they're sitting in the staff room and there's a lot of ha, he, chai, pakoda, samosa. Okay, once in a while it's okay. But when the school is going on and the children are there in the campus, then of course your teachers are the role models. Teachers, you are the role model of your students. So if they see, suppose they go to the library and they see, hey, some teacher is also reading, they will understand that teachers don't only say to read, they read themselves also. If the child finds that the teacher is conversing in English, they will also converse in English. If the child finds that the teacher is using a table mat and keeping the lunch over that and then eating, the child will also do that. If the child finds that my teacher is also doing the homework and coming to school, now what is teacher's homework? Maybe you promised something for the child, maybe you've completed the correction and returned the notebooks or books on time, so that is your homework. Then the child will also do the homework and come back to school. And most important is, if the teacher is knowledgeable, only then can he or she establish a learning culture in the school. Ravi Kumarji, you are not able to hear me, friend. Maybe you have some network issues. Kindly check in your network issues, or you can just log out and then again get in. I think it will help you, because I'm feeling very bad that somebody is not able to hear me. Next, keep students at the heart of the learning culture. I'll discuss these points in details also, as much as our time allows us. Keep students at the heart of the learning culture. आपके पूरे स्कूल में आप कुछ भी करो, आप गजरा लगा लो, आप काजल लगा लो, आप क्लास के 10 नियम बना लो, आप नोटिस बोर्ड लगा लो, आप बिल्डिंग बड़ी कर लो, आप एम्फी थिएटर बना लो, आप क्लास में स्मार्ट बोर्ड लगा लो, आप बढ़िया बढ़िया पब्लिकेशंस की बुक्स लगा लो, एनसीईआरटी लगा लो, जो करना करो, आई डोंट माइंड. आप हाफ पैंट पहन के स्कूल आओ, फुल पैंट पहन के स्कूल आओ, आप साड़ी पहनो, आप सलवार सूट पहनो, आप दिन भर चाय समोसा खाओ, स्कूल में पढ़ाओ, क्लास में टाइम पे जाओ, नहीं जाओ, आई डोंट माइंड, as long as that action benefits the student. Did you get my point? That action, whichever action you're taking in the school, whatever you're doing in the school, if that action is beneficial for the student, please go ahead. Otherwise, it is wrong. So, when so many teachers come to me and say something, or they ask for guidance, they share the suggestions, I always tell, if this happens, ask yourself, will your student be benefited? If the child will be benefited, it's a thumbs up from my side. And if the child will not be benefited, it's a thumbs down. You getting my point? So please, teachers, whenever you are in a kashmakash, you are not able to understand what to do, please ask yourself one question, that will my child be benefited? If yes, I'll do it. Okay. Next, develop policies and systems to support the culture of learning. That is very important. कि आप मुंह से कुछ और बोल रहे हो और आपके policies कुछ और बोल रही है. Suppose आपने एक policy बनाई that if the child is consistently not performing well, the teachers will help the student. आपने एक बड़ी सी अच्छी सी policy बना ली, और आपके स्कूल में अगर कोई बच्चा सालों साल फेल हो रहा है, उसके लिए कोई आप रीइंफोर्समेंट क्लास नहीं करते, रेमेडियल क्लास नहीं करते, बच्चों को हेल्प नहीं करते, आप पेरेंट्स को गुस्सा होते हो कि आप बच्चे को पढ़ाते नहीं है, बच्चे को लगातार सालों साल फेल कर रहे हैं, यू आर नॉट टेकिंग एनी एक्शन टू इंप्रूव द चाइल्ड्स लर्निंग. इसका मतलब आपकी पॉलिसी और व्हाट यू आर डूइंग इज नॉट मैचिंग. इट कैन बी द रिवर्स ऑल्सो. Maybe you're doing a lot of things, but there's no policy regarding it. Then also it will not develop. It's to be helpful in establishing a proper system. So your policies and whatever you're doing, they should go hand in hand, keeping in mind that the center of the universe is the student. Okay. And finally, create the social glue. पूरे पटना में मान लीजिए आपके स्कूल के बारे में कुछ नेगेटिव कहा जाता है, तो it will somehow, even if it is true or it is not true, it will somehow come back on the school. So you have to be very particular that the society, because society is also a stakeholder of the school, the society, the community has trust on your school. मान लीजिए अगर आपके स्कूल का कोई बस है, मुझे एक एग्जांपल स्ट्राइक किया, मैं दे देती हूँ आपको. For example, you have a school bus, and that school bus, there's a breakdown. In the middle of the way, the children have not reached home and there's a breakdown and there are children in the bus. Now, suppose the teachers get down and go home. and the driver is in the bus and the conductor doesn't know what to do. Now what happens? There are phone calls coming to the school office or maybe to the conductor. Where's my child? Where is my child? And you say, sir, आप आइए ना यहाँ आकर अपने बच्चे को लेके जाइए. हम अब बस खराब हो गए, हम नहीं जा सकते. Now, suppose there's a parent who is in office. Suppose there's a parent who is outside somewhere. Suppose there's a parent who cannot come to that place. वो तो पैनिक से मर जाएंगे. वो तो अगले दिन आएंगे और टीसी ले लेंगे, कहेंगे भैया आप मेरे बच्चे को कहीं भी छोड़ दे तो आपकी बस खराब हो जाती, मैं नहीं पढ़ाऊंगी स्कूल में या मैं नहीं पढ़ाऊंगा स्कूल में. लेकिन अगर इसी ब्रेक डाउन के समय आपके स्कूल से एक मैसेज जाता है, देयर इज अ ब्रेक डाउन इन द बस, सो द बस स्टूडेंट्स विल रीच होम 30 मिनट्स लेट, काइंडली बेयर विद अस. और आप तुरंत वहां एक दूसरी बस भेजते, बच्चों को उस बस पे लोड करते और फिर आप बच्चों को सही सही जगह पे पहुंचा देते. और पेरेंट्स उस मैसेज को देखकर निश्चिंत हो जाते. जब मैम ने या जब स्कूल ने कहा है माय चाइल्ड विल रीच विद इन 30 मिनट्स, व्हेन 30 मिनट्स लेट, दैट मींस देयर इज अ जेन्युइन प्रॉब्लम. अगर आपके पेरेंट्स ये सोचते हैं दैट मीन्स, और ये आपके मैसेज देने से दे आर नॉट कंसोल्ड एंड दे बिलीव इन यू, यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट मैम, then that means you have been able to establish a social glue. People trust you, people believe you कि आप उनके बच्चे को रास्ते में नहीं छोड़ेंगे. नहीं, वो स्कूल तो ऐसा कर ही नहीं सकता. अगर बस खराब भी होती है तो दूसरी बस आकर मेरे बच्चे को छोड़ती है. अगर आपके पेरेंट्स, सोसाइटी आपके बारे में इस तरीके से बात करें, that means you've been able to establish a social glue. I hope you understand the meaning of social glue. So these 5 points are very, very important if you want to develop a learning culture, because learning culture is nothing जो आप सिर्फ स्कूल के अंदर डेवलप करते हैं, स्कूल के बाहर भी डेवलप करते हैं, वहां से वो ऑरा अंदर तक आती है, so it's a cyclic process. Within the school, outside the school, you have to establish a learning culture for your school. So how will you do that? The first one is build trust and respect for your school. I've just given you an example related to this, that how will you build trust and respect for your school? People should speak good about your school. People should say, no, in this school, this cannot happen. आजकल आप देखिए फ्रेंड्स, मतलब स्कूल्स आर द सॉफ्ट टारगेट. आप मीडिया में देखिए स्कूल के बारे में कितना कुछ कहा जाता है. आप पेपर, किसी भी तरह का प्रिंट मीडिया देखो, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया देखो, पेरेंट्स को आप देखिए. व्हेन देयर वाज द आउटबर्स्ट ऑफ कोविड, you saw how much support we got from the parents. It's not hidden. So there are many schools which got a lot of support. There are schools which did not get support. Now that also depended upon how much you gave to these children. So do the parents have trust in you? Do the parents believe that yes, if my child is coming to this school, my child will learn something and go back home today. My child will become a 21st century learner. My child will become a good citizen when he comes out of the school. Do your parents have this kind of trust and respect for you? Then that is learning culture. So first thing, the very first thing that you need to do is develop that trust, develop that respect. और उसके लिए, friends, teachers, you have to sometimes stretch yourself. You have to pull yourself out of your comfort zone, because building trust and respect is not that easy. It's for the teachers, it's for the principals, it's for all stakeholders of the school. You must work hard. That is the first step by your school months. Even if you put big hoardings, even if you put advertisement in the newspaper and pamphlets and this, more than that, what works most for the schools is the trust and the respect. If your parents believe in you, the society has faith in you, they will come back to you. So please remember this. This is very, very important. Next, how will you create the social glue? कैसे सोशल ग्लू क्रिएट करेंगे? मैं आपको सिर्फ कुछ टिप्स एंड ट्रिक्स दे रही हूं. सो यू कैन कीप अ स्क्रीनशॉट ऑफ दीस टिप्स एंड ट्रिक्स एंड यू कैन यूज दिस इन योर स्कूल. engage the children in activities, fair activities. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए डांस कंपटीशन है, डांस टीचर went to the classes, picked up the best children. Then when will the others become best? Whenever you do something, please be transparent with your systems. That is these small things matter a lot. Understand others instead of seeking to be understood. One person comes at the front office, he's very angry. Why have you done this, ma'am? That person talks rudely with the front office person, maybe. So the front office person also becomes angry. अरे आप मुझसे ऐसे कैसे बात कर सकते हैं? No. try to understand that person's problem before you put in your problems. So you have to be understanding. That is very very important. You know, एक चीज मैं हमेशा मेरे अपने टीचर्स को भी मैं कहती हूँ, मेरे स्कूल के टीचर्स को भी हो सकता है उनको थोड़ा लगता होगा मैम इज एक्सपेक्टिंग अ लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रेच फ्रॉम अस, but then I would like to say this to you also, that if you are a school teacher, you are not only working, you are actually serving. There's a difference between work and serve. We are not working as a teacher or as a principal, we are serving also. So keep that mentality of serving, and then I think at least a few things will change. Yeah, it's a social service, and the good thing is that for this social service we get some money also. So please keep this in your mind, and change your attitude, things will change. Next is encourage positivity and empathy among stakeholders. Try to understand each other. Don't be upset. If you understand each other, things will be better. Create opportunities for your staffs and students' well-being. What are you doing for your staff welfare? What are you doing for your students' welfare? Celebrate success stories with the larger school community. I'm sure most of us are doing this. Today we have the digital media. So we celebrate the success stories. But why only of students? Maybe there's a student whose father is being promoted to something. A student whose mother has done something very good or come up with a new venture. Let's celebrate those stories, because we should feel, and we should make feel our stakeholders that we are an extended family. Provide psychologically safe environment. Very 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 important. Children should close their eyes and trust in you. When they go back, many mothers, many parents ask, आज क्या हुआ स्कूल में, सब तो ठीक तो था, तुम्हारे स्कूल में कोई अंधेरी जगह तो नहीं है, तुम कहीं गलत जगह तो नहीं गए थे, किसी ने तुम्हें गलत तरीके से तो नहीं छुआ? Because parents are also very aware. So your child should be psychologically safe in your school. Listen and support actively to ideas on school improvement. If there's a feedback from the parent, if there's a feedback from anyone, you should listen. For example, just a few minutes ago, there was a feedback in the chat box that, ma'am, you're not audible. Now, suppose I'm overconfident and I say, ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता कि मैं audible नहीं हूँ, तो हो सकता है कभी कभी मैं गलत हो जाऊँ. So what did I do? I asked others, friends, am I audible? So your feedback, even if it is a negative feedback, it's very, very important at times. Okay. Be a role model for your teachers and students. This is for the principals, and for the teachers, it is be a role model for your students. Demonstrate that, okay, this is not for you. Now, next is develop policies and systems that support a culture of learning. So, whatever good work you are doing in the school, practically to develop a learning culture, those things should match with your policies also. Your policy should say this. Like, for example, I would like to say that suppose that somebody's parent expired during the COVID. So, do you have a policy which says, suppose the parent is expired because of COVID, the child will be given free education up to maybe this much of time? Chalo, theek hai, but is there a policy? So whatever the policies are, they should also be transparent. They should be in favor of developing the learning culture of the school. So transparent communication, safe and secure school, and robust policies which will help you do more. Suppose I'm a principal and I have a policy that, okay, in COVID this has happened, so I will give free education. तो आप बताओ मेरे hands कितने strong हो जाएंगे, मैं वो काम कितने अच्छे से कर सकूंगी? और मे भी मैं करना चाहती हूँ एज ए प्रिंसिपल और मेरे स्कूल की पॉलिसीज ही नहीं सपोर्ट करें, तो आप बताओ मेरा स्ट्रगल कितना बढ़ जाएगा कि प्लीज टू द माय मैनेजमेंट, प्लीज अलाउ, प्लीज अलाउ, प्लीज अलाउ. So that is why, every time I'm saying that policies should also support your actions, and actions should be according to the policies. So the school should have robust policies which favor development of the school culture. Then, of course, I don't think you need to understand this more. This figure is enough that the child should be at the center of your school's universe. If your school is considered as a universe, then the child should be the center of that universe. Every time you have a problem, every time you have a doubt, friends, ask yourself, क्या मैं ये जो करने वाली हूँ ये मेरे बच्चों के लिए अच्छा है, फायदेमंद है? Go ahead, do it. थोड़ी डांट भी पड़ेगी प्रिंसिपल से, कोई बात नहीं, but do it. क्योंकि वो आपके बच्चों को फायदा करेगा. And then explain your point. That's very important. Okay. Set and communicate high expectations. बच्चों के पास high expectations होनी चाहिए. कैसे होंगी? For example, I'm giving a small example. Suppose you come well dressed, ironed sari, okay, ironed blouse, hair properly done to school. Your children will follow you. You have to set the standard very high. See how well I am dressed. So, my dear children, you have to be better than me because you are younger and more vibrant and more energetic than me. Talk to your children like this. I am shabby. How will I expect my children to be very well dressed and look smart? You understand? This was just one example. Provide challenging opportunities. Yes. You know, when there's a challenge in our life, we strive. We strive to fulfill it. So, put challenges in your child's life so that the child, grows. Otherwise, no challenge, no growth. Encourage students to take responsibility. Encourage students to use assessment as feedback. Then there'll be no depressions, no frustrations, and God forbid, no suicides in your school. Because children will understand that sir is taking this assessment because sir wants me to improve. Hello, sir. Hello, Devasi, sir. Happy to find you here. Next, develop students' ability to reflect. How can you do that? I think the easiest way is don't spoon feed them. Don't spoon feed them because you want the correct answers from your students. You want them to put a tick mark in the notebook. You want them to get good marks. So you spoon feed all the answers. Child will never grow. So how will the child grow? How will the child learn? How will the child reflect and become reflective practitioner? Until and unless you give the child a chance to walk and fall. That is also very important. Has any one of us who is attending this session learned to walk without falling? Has any one of you learned? Has any one of you? None of you have learned to walk without falling. So we have to fall if you want to learn. So allow your children also to fall. Allow your children also to fall. Why are you so afraid if they write wrong answers? You are there to correct them. As long as the teacher wants to correct the child, teacher is ready to correct the child, it doesn't matter how many wrong answers the child is writing. And next is please develop ability to inculcate values, gender sensitivity, life skills. These are all in the 21st century skills. Pre-vocational, vocational skills, art appreciation, and physical education, because they totally holistically develop the personality of the child. If you're just teaching the child in the class, there's no playground in your school, there's no vocational course in your school, the children are not allowed to make mistakes, the children are not allowed to go here and there, the children are not allowed to fall down, the children are not allowed to respect each other, different genders, then please remember there will be no learning. Because learning is not about English, Hindi, math, science, social science. I think learning is much beyond that. You also need to stretch your view, stretch yourself and understand what is learning all about. Next, okay, this is what I was just talking to you, that help your child develop 21st century skills. Although this session does not allow me to go into 21st century skills, but still, at least you should understand that today's education is merged, is amalgamated with 21st century skills. And 21st century skills means life skills. 21st century skills means beyond life skills also. Just one simple example. Suppose you are traveling on a boat or in a ship and there's a turmoil in the water. No degrees, no English knowledge, no maths knowledge, no social science knowledge can help you. What can help you is swimming. So skills are equally important. I'm not demeaning any subject. Please, with folded hands, I would like to tell you, I'm not demeaning any subject. I'm just telling you that subject knowledge and practical knowledge is equally important. You cannot demean any one of them. Sitting there across the table, as a teacher, please don't demean that. Your classrooms, your lesson plans must be amalgamated with the 21st century skills if you actually want to develop a learning culture in your school. If you want to develop innovation in your school, if you want your children to think, if you want your children to discover, you have to make them understand what is critical thinking. You have to allow them to critically think. You have to allow them to be creative. नहीं करेंगे तो बच्चे इनोवेट ही नहीं करेंगे, कुछ बनाएंगे ही नया नया, फिर आपके स्कूल में जहां बच्चे थे वही रह जाएंगे, कुछ नया नहीं होगा। तो इसका मतलब अगर आप बच्चों के एक्सपेक्टेशन लेवल हाई सेट करना चाहते हैं, अपने स्कूल के लेवल हाई सेट करना चाहते हैं, अपने बच्चों की लर्निंग कल्चर को स्ट्रेच करना चाहते हैं, अच्छा बनाना चाहते हैं, तो skills are a very very important part of it. Okay, now some more, see, these are some examples, live examples in the class, how you can do it. You can maybe ask the children to go through a chat show and then come back with some question answers, newspaper reading, singing, mind map. Actually, I would love if I could have given you a session on 21st century skills. I could have explained you how you can develop 21st century skills, but at least I'm just giving you this hint. I'm putting you into this loop that whenever you're teaching in the class, please bring in some 21st century skills. Then I'm very sure that your children will learn very fast, very well, and automatically the learning culture of your school will go ahead. Now, next actionable is encourage teachers to deepen the learning. Many a times, teachers, I'm sorry to say this, but many a times what happens is we ourselves, we are very happy with the superficial knowledge that we have. We all are very well educated. That is why we are teachers. You have your BA, BSc, MA, MSc, some of your PhD, etc., degrees. There is no dearth of knowledge, I'm sure. But you know what happens? Once you become a teacher of class 6, 7, 3, 4, 8, 10, 12, you forget. You forget to grow. You become very sure that I am a teacher now. क्लास 3 को तो मैं आराम से पढ़ा लेती हूँ, ये चैप्टर तो बहुत आसान है, मुझे तो देखने की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है क्लास में जाने के पहले। नहीं, आपको देखने की जरूरत है, क्योंकि टेक्स्ट बुक को नहीं पढ़ाना है। You have to, you are yourself a textbook, you are an encyclopedia. Forget the textbook. बहुत समय मैं टीचर से पूछती हूँ ये क्वेश्चन ऐसा क्यों है, ये तो गलत लग रहा है, तो टीचर्स का रिप्लाई आता है, मैम इट वाज इन द टेक्स्ट बुक। बट टेक्स्ट बुक्स आल्सो कैन बी रॉन्ग। You are better than the textbook. You don't need a textbook. अगर आपने किसी सब्जेक्ट में एमए किया है, एमएससी किया है, तो फिर आपको क्लास 5, 6 को पढ़ाने के लिए टेक्स्ट बुक की जरूरत क्यों है? To deepen your learning. Children are very intelligent. Children understand किस टीचर का कितना डेप्थ है. Everything is okay, but until and unless you know your subject, you know your content well, you can never hit the child. Okay, next is teachers should become reflective practitioners. What is the meaning of reflective practitioners? Reflective practitioners means teachers have to think. आज आपने एक क्लास लिया, मैंने आपका एक क्लास लिया, ठीक है? अभी अगर मैं इस सेशन को खत्म करने के बाद 2 मिनट नहीं सोचूं कि मैंने जो ये सेशन लिया ये कैसा था, अच्छा था, बुरा था, मैं उसमें अच्छा और क्या कर सकती थी, क्या ऐड कर सकती थी, क्या सब्ट्रैक्ट कर सकती थी, क्या डिवाइड कर सकती थी, क्या मल्टीप्लाई कर सकती थी, तब तक I will not become a better resource person tomorrow. If I started with 1 point out of 10 as a resource person, then maybe after 10 sessions, I should go to 1 or 2. I should get 2 out of 10. I should get 3 out of 10 next, 4 out of 10 next, 5 out of 10 next. That is the meaning of reflective practitioner. Whenever you take a class, friends, please reflect on your class. Next, build a climate for adopting innovative instructional strategies. How will you build a climate for innovative strategies? When you try and develop the critical thinking and the creativity of the students. Then what happens? Children learn to innovate. And then you should also adopt innovative pedagogies. आप एक ही स्टाइल में पढ़ाओगे, रोज जाकर लेक्चर दोगे, या रोज जाकर टीवी दिखाओगे, डॉक्यूमेंट्री दिखा दोगे, या रोज जाकर क्लास में कहोगे चलो let's go to the garden. So you'll become monotonous. People will not like you. So you have to adopt different pedagogies as per the requirements of the child. Learning teaching styles. Okay. Then ask your teachers amongst yourself. Suppose there are 3 English teachers in your school, 5 Hindi teachers in your school, 10 math teachers in the school. Please share the best practices, because every teacher has something very good and unique about himself or herself, and that can be shared, and everybody can become better with this kind of sharing. Encourage innovative pedagogical practices to enhance student engagement. Innovative pedagogical practices means बहुत समय मुझे ऐसा भी मैंने फेस किया है कि अगर मैंने इंग्लिश टीचर से पूछा, now please tell me that what are some of the methods of teaching English? What are some of the methods of teaching science? Can you name some methods of teaching social science? Some of you are not aware of that also. So my request to you is that learn about your subject. आप बहुत अच्छा सोशल साइंस जानते हो, आप बहुत अच्छे टीचर हो, एजुकेटेड हो, बहुत अच्छे हो, लेकिन क्या आप बहुत अच्छा सोशल साइंस पढ़ाना जानते हो? उसके लिए you should know the skills of the subject, you should know the teaching methods of the subject, you should know the pedagogy. उसके लिए थोड़ा सा समय दो. That is how what we mean when we say encourage teachers to deepen learning. Finally, teach us to use data for effective instructional planning and execution. Now, what is the meaning of this? Suppose you take an assessment. आपको assessment में पता चलता है that these many students in my class have not been able to attempt question number 5 properly. What do you do? What do you do? You just scold them? Study properly. Do well in the next exam. No. When you understand कि भाई question number 5 को बच्चे अच्छे से नहीं attempt कर पाए, तो आपका क्या काम होना चाहिए? Can I have some suggestions in the chat box, please? What should be your duty? What should be your work? Very good, Manju ji. Very good. That question number 5 जिस topic के तहत आता है, that means the teacher needs to work on that topic once again in the class. Either by reinforcing the topic once again, or by changing the method of teaching once again, or by talking to the children what went wrong. So this is the use of data. Data को use करिए. Okay. Very good. Thanks for your remarks, friends. So data-driven decision is the requirement of the 21st century teachers. अगर students 21st century के हैं, तो as teachers we are also 21st century teachers. तो हमें data को देखते हुए decision लेंगे. इसी का मतलब होता है feedback. जब हम कहते हैं ना we take assessments, we give feedback, तो इसका मतलब क्या है? जो डेटा मेरे पास आया असेसमेंट लेने के बाद अकॉर्डिंगली हम फीडबैक देंगे. मतलब डेटा के अकॉर्डिंग कुछ डिसीजंस हमें भी लेना है. कौन सा टॉपिक दोबारा पढ़ाना है, कौन सा टॉपिक दूसरे मेथड से पढ़ाना है, कौन सा टॉपिक में मेरा बच्चा अच्छा है, कौन सा टॉपिक में मेरा बच्चा उतना अच्छा नहीं है, कौन सा टॉपिक में ज्यादा हेल्प की जरूरत है, किसको हेल्प की जरूरत है. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट डेटा ड्रिवन डिसीजंस. एंड most importantly, please don't forget to involve parents in your school. Either involve them as guests के तौर पे तो आप बुलाते हैं, PTM में बुलाते हैं, आप annual function में बुलाते हैं, sports day में बुलाते हैं. No, not only as guests, you involve them in your school. आप कभी कोई प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं, जजमेंट के लिए बुलाइए, आप असेंबली में बुलाइए, आप पेरेंट्स की पीटीए जो करते हैं उसमें उनके सजेशंस को लीजिए, आप उनकी फीडबैक लीजिए, आप उन्हें चिल्ड्रंस डे में इन्वॉल्व कीजिए, टीचर्स डे में इन्वॉल्व कीजिए, ग्रुप में इन्वॉल्व कीजिए. You know, in my school, I have a super moms club. I've named them a super moms club. And there are so many mothers, you won't believe how much work they do for us. So much work they do for us, so much help they render us. वो हमेशा हमारे पीछे खड़े रहते हैं हमें हेल्प करने के लिए. तो पेरेंटल इन्वॉल्वमेंट मैटर्स अ लॉट. ओके, सो प्लीज एंगेज पेरेंट्स, होल्ड वर्कशॉप्स फॉर देम. पेरेंट्स को भी समझाइए, आप अपनी पॉलिसीज को समझाइए, आप अपने सिस्टम्स को समझाइए, आपके दिल में क्या बात है उसको आप पेरेंट्स को समझाइए, सो दैट दे कैन हेल्प यू. सिर्फ पेरेंट को ये कहना कि आप बच्चे को टाइम दीजिए, आप बच्चे को पढ़ाइए. ट्रस्ट मी फ्रेंड्स, बहुत सारे पेरेंट्स टाइम देते हैं, देना चाहते हैं, लेकिन उनको ये नहीं पता वो कैसे दे. तो आपको पेरेंट को भी बच्चे की तरह गाइड करना पड़ेगा कि आप घर पे बच्चे को कैसे समय दें, क्या करें उनके साथ. एग्जैक्टली पॉइंट वाइज देना होगा. बिकॉज देयर आर पेरेंट्स हु विश टू हेल्प देयर चाइल्ड बट दे डोंट नो हाउ टू हेल्प. ओके, सो आफ्टर यू डू ऑल दिस, then you see the impact of the learning culture. Evaluate, feel करिए कि आपके स्कूल के learning culture में क्या क्या changes हुए. You know, as teachers, when you walk in the corridor, you are in the assembly, you are in the bus, you can feel that pulse and you can feel the change happening around in your school. And I'm sure if all this is done, you will have a wonderful learning culture in your school very soon with your efforts, with your consistent efforts, I must say. That's all from my side. Thank you so much. Over to you, friends, if you have any questions. If you have any questions, please ask me. Okay, friends, if you have any questions. Thank you for overflowing of these lovely comments, so much of love. Thank you so much for this motivation. If anybody has any questions. I request Patliputra Sahodaya if there are any questions because you know the chat box is jumping on my screen. So maybe I'm missing out a few. Any raise hands could be allowed to speak. I would like to thank Patliputra Sahodaya for giving me this wonderful opportunity to put forth my some ideas in front of you. And you know, this is actually a very beautiful topic. And if you really feel this topic is good, try out some certain tips and tricks as discussed in today's workshop. And I wish you all the best for the upcoming session. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. May I leave, ma'am? Thank you. Insha ma'am, if you're here, may I leave the session?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, all of you. It was lovely. Thank you.